This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pimm Fox. All right, like many nations around the world, the island nation of Jamaica is concerned about the debt crisis in Europe and how it could affect its own economy. Now, earlier today, I was joined by my colleague Zahra Burton, and we sat down with the 39-year-old Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness. Now, we began by asking him how Jamaica can maintain economic growth while reducing government spending.
The strategy is not to depend on public expenditure to generate growth. We have struck up very good public-private partnerships, certainly in infrastructure. In fact, the 2.5% growth which we saw last quarter, much of that came out of infrastructure development. We have been working very closely with the Chinese, with European companies, and with American companies as well, to strike up public-private partnerships in infrastructure, in our ports, in road development, in housing, in water. And that will drive our growth primarily. Luckily for us, we have managed, within the IMF context, to have stability. We have managed to get an alignment of our interest rates, our exchange rate, and our inflation rate, which we haven't been able to get that alignment in 30 years. We have that alignment now, and that is what we see resulting now in growth. Moderate growth, but growth nonetheless. And if we are able to continue with stability, I'm very optimistic that our growth rate will increase.
Prime Minister Holness, I noticed you mentioned immediately China when you first started speaking, even before the United States. Just wondering, are you trying to shift away from a dependence on the United States and maybe even areas like Europe that are slowing down and where China is obviously...
Well, strategically, countries should diversify their investment portfolios as much as possible. The United States still remains our major trading partner.
Clearly.
And still a significant source of foreign direct investment in Jamaica. We would want that to continue. We would want to deepen that. But certainly, the Chinese also have an interest in Jamaica. And from our perspective, diversifying our investment portfolio is a strategic move on our part.
Tell us about what's going on in the world of tourism. I mean, when you think about Jamaica, you always got to think about tourism, right?
Well,
how's the business?
We have to give credit to our tourism minister. He's so energetic. He has managed to keep tourism flows going. Certainly, whilst other countries in the region, their tourist arrival would have fallen significantly in some cases. Jamaica's arrival keeps on growing, and that's very important to us. Tourism is now the largest foreign exchange earner for Jamaica.
Is there opportunity right now for an investor who wants to, say, invest in tourism? What are some of the opportunities and immediate opportunities, not just...
Well, immediately, we've just now developed the regulatory framework for casino licensing, for casino gaming. And that is an opportunity. Jamaica could become the next big destination. We don't want to change the nature of our tourism. We don't want to become a gaming destination, but certainly that is a part of the market that we could develop. Jamaica also could very well become the next big destination in family tourism, and we have to move that way. We also have attractions. There are several areas in Jamaica which have historic value, which we have not maximized, but we intend to do so in the future. So there are significant investment opportunities in tourism in Jamaica.
Investment opportunities. What about government spending? Tell me, every government in the world is facing the same kind of issues, right?
Jamaica is no different. Fiscal discipline has to be the hallmark of Jamaican governments going forward. We cannot continue to borrow as we have done in the past. We have to borrow with a strategic view in mind. Borrowing has to match priorities, and priorities that we decide to select have to deliver results in order that we can continue spending on our social programs. It is a sea change in how politics is done in Jamaica. I've certainly placed managing the national debt as a priority. And so all our borrowing going forward will be strategic and based on our national interests and priorities.
What about the politics of Jamaica? Is that going to support this strategy?
Is there going to be an election this year?
Yeah.
Why do you ask me that question? That's a tough question. The markets, which consolidate information much faster than people do normally, the financial markets are saying you need to have an election this year. It's not quite clear in the political market between political parties and people's political views whether or not we should have an election now or later. But certainly the financial markets in Jamaica are looking forward to having a resolution, because it is really a vote of confidence in government policy. And we took very careful note of the Standard & Poor's review of Jamaica, where there is a political risk of changing the government. And I think people who are in business especially want to see continuity. They want to see the stability continue. And so they would prefer to have an election earlier to resolve any uncertainty in the markets.
Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness.